What would you do if two hungry boys stood outside your food stall every day, never begging, never speaking, just watching? What if feeding them meant you might go hungry yourself? And what if, years later, two Lamborghinis stopped outside that same stall? This is not a story about money. This is a story about quiet kindness and how God keeps records the world forgets. Most people believe kindness should come with limits, that generosity must be calculated, that helping too much makes you foolish. Mary Thompson believed otherwise. She believed that when God places hunger in front of you, He also places responsibility in your hands. For years, no one noticed her, no one praised her, no one rewarded her, until one ordinary afternoon, when the road in front of her food stall fell completely silent. Mary Thompson woke up every morning at 4:30 a.m., not because she liked early mornings, but because survival demanded it. The alarm clock on her bedside table had stopped working years ago. She didn't replace it. She didn't need to. Hunger had its own clock, and it never failed. Her one-room house smelled faintly of cooking oil and soap. The walls were bare except for a small wooden cross hanging above her bed and a framed photo beside it. Her husband, John Thompson. He had been smiling in that picture, young, confident, alive. Mary paused every morning before leaving, touching the frame lightly, whispering the same words she had whispered for years. "Watch over me today." John had worked in a warehouse across town, 12-hour shifts, minimal pay, no benefits, one faulty machine, one ignored safety warning, one moment. The company called it an accident. Mary called it abandonment. After the funeral, people disappeared. Friends stopped visiting. Promises faded. Bills arrived on time. Grief didn't ask permission before turning into desperation. She sold her wedding ring first, then her earrings, then the bracelet her mother had given her. With that money, she built the stall. 4 wooden panels, a borrowed stove, a second-hand pot. That was the beginning. Mary's food stall stood on the edge of a busy but aging street. It wasn't a place people chose. It was a place people passed through. Bus drivers, construction workers, security guards, delivery men, people who needed food fast and cheap. Her sign once read, "Mary's home-cooked meals." Time and sun had peeled away the paint until only parts of the letters remained. Mary cooked simple food, rice, beans, bread, soup. No fancy spices, no variety, just warm, filling meals. She charged little. Sometimes people paid less, sometimes they paid more. Sometimes they promised to pay later and never returned. Mary kept serving anyway. She believed food was meant to be shared, not guarded. By noon every day, her back ached. By evening, her feet burned. But she stayed until the last customer left, because tomorrow always needed preparation. The winter came early that year. Cold winds cut through the street. Business slowed. People spent less. Hunger grew quieter, but sharper. That's when Mary noticed them, 2 boys. They stood across the road near a boarded-up gas station. Thin jackets, worn shoes, hands shoved deep into their pockets. They never crossed the street. They never asked for food. They just watched. Mary noticed because she herself had once watched food she couldn't afford. She noticed because hunger recognizes hunger. The first day, she ignored them. The second day, she noticed again. By the third day, she couldn't look away. When the lunch rush ended, Mary prepared 2 extra plates. She stared at them for a long moment, calculating silently. "If I give this away, I won't eat tonight." She picked them up anyway. Crossing the road, she felt her heart pound, not from fear, but from uncertainty. "I'm not selling," she said gently when the boys stiffened. "Food gets cold." One boy whispered, "We don't have money." Mary smiled softly. "I didn't ask for any." They didn't eat until she walked away. That night, Mary went to bed hungry. She slept peacefully. The boys returned the next day. Same place, same silence. This time, Mary didn't cross the road. She placed 2 plates on the edge of her stall. "Come eat," she said quietly. They approached slowly, as if afraid the offer might disappear. "I'm Ethan," one said. "I'm Elijah," the other added. Twins, 10 years old. Their story came out in fragments over days. Their mother had died when they were young. Their father worked odd jobs, mechanic work, cleaning, delivery runs, until illness weakened him. Bills piled up. Rent went unpaid. The landlord didn't wait. Mary listened without interrupting. She never asked questions that felt too heavy. From that day on, feeding Ethan and Elijah became routine. 2 plates. Every day. No conditions. They never begged. They never complained. They never wasted food. Mary noticed that. Kindness feels different when it starts costing you something. Food prices rose again. Gas became expensive. Lentils doubled in price. Rice quality dropped. Mary started eating once a day. Some days, she didn't eat at all. A regular customer noticed. "You're feeding those kids every day now?" he asked. Mary nodded. "You can't save everyone," he said. "People will take advantage." Mary wiped her hands on her apron. "They're just children," she replied. That night, she opened her worn Bible. Her eyes landed on a verse she had underlined years ago. "Whatever you did for one of the least of these, you did for me." She closed the book and whispered, "Then I'll keep doing it." Time does not announce itself when it passes. It moves silently, measured not in years, but in changes so small they are only noticed in hindsight. Ethan and Elijah began to change. At first it was their height. Their jackets grew shorter at the wrists. Their shoes wore thin faster. Their voices cracked unexpectedly, surprising even themselves. Mary noticed everything. She noticed how Ethan became more protective, always positioning himself slightly ahead of his brother when strangers passed. She noticed how Elijah became more observant, quieter, watching people with a thoughtful intensity that didn't belong to a child. They were still twins, identical in face, but slowly different in spirit. They came every day, rain or shine, cold or heat, school day or holiday. Mary never asked where they slept. She didn't need to. She could see it in their exhaustion, in how they lingered near warmth, in how they sat carefully, ready to leave at the first sign of trouble. Sometimes, when business was slow, Mary let them sit behind the stall. She taught them little things, how to rinse plates properly, how to count change twice, how to greet customers respectfully, even rude ones. She never called it teaching. She just spoke as she worked. "Always look people in the eye," she said once, "even when you have nothing." Ethan nodded seriously. Elijah remembered every word. As the boys grew, so did the cost. Teenage boys ate more, much more. Mary adjusted quietly. She diluted soups. She stretched portions. She skipped meals entirely. Some nights, she drank only water and told herself she wasn't hungry. Her body weakened, but her resolve did not. There were moments, late at night, sitting alone on her bed, when doubt whispered, "What if something happens to me? What if I can't keep this up?" She answered those thoughts with prayer. "Lord," she whispered once, hands folded tightly, "I don't know how long I can do this, but I'll do it as long as you give me strength." And strength came, not as ease, not as money, but as endurance. The boys never knew. They never saw her trembling hands late at night. They never saw her calculating coins with tears in her eyes. They never heard her stomach growl while she cooked. All they knew was that the food was always there, and that consistency shaped them. Education became a quiet battle. Mary insisted the boys attend school whenever possible. She spoke to a nearby church, a local teacher, anyone who would listen. Some helped, many didn't. Ethan struggled at first. He was practical, restless, eager to work. Elijah loved books, numbers, ideas. Mary encouraged both. "Work hard," she told Ethan. "Think deep," she told Elijah. Sometimes after closing the stall, she let them read beside the stove while she cleaned. Those moments mattered more than any meal. Years passed. The boys reached their late teens. They were no longer invisible children. They were young men. One morning, they didn't come. Mary noticed immediately. By noon, her chest felt tight. By evening, fear sat heavy in her stomach. The next day, still nothing. On the fourth day, a woman from a nearby charity approached her stall. "You've been feeding the twins," she said gently. Mary nodded, afraid to speak. "They've been accepted into a long-term program. Education, housing, another state." Relief came first, then pain, sharp, deep, unexpected. That night, Mary cooked 2 plates out of habit. She stared at them for a long time. Then she sat down and cried. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just the quiet kind of crying that comes from loving without guarantees. Life moved on. Mary aged. Her hair grayed. Her hands stiffened. Her steps slowed. The stall survived storms, strikes, and seasons. Some days were good. Most were not. She never heard from the boys. No letters, no calls, no news. And yet, she never felt abandoned, because she never helped them expecting return. Sometimes she whispered their names in prayer. Protect them, guide them, let them become good men. And then, one afternoon, the sound came, low, powerful, impossible to ignore. 2 Lamborghinis rolled down the cracked road. The street stopped breathing. 2 men stepped out, well-dressed, calm, confident. They walked toward Mary and bowed. "Mom?" Ethan said. "Elijah?" Mary whispered. They smiled. Years collapsed into a single moment. They told her everything. Education, businesses, failures, success. "We never forgot," Elijah said. "Not one meal." They placed documents on her stall. A home, a proper restaurant, medical care, security. Mary didn't look at the papers. She held their faces and cried. Moral of the story: kindness given without expectation is never lost. God keeps better records than the world ever will. If this story touched your heart, don't scroll away. Somewhere right now, someone is doing good in silence, just like Mary did. And maybe this story was meant to remind you that kindness is never wasted. Subscribe to Momentum Stories for more real stories that restore faith, hope, and humanity.